All right, here we are. Welcome, everybody.
Good
Hey,
morning.
hello, Jeff and
Morning.
Alex. How are you?
Doing all right.
Pretty
How you
good.
doing?
Good. Hey, guess what? We're gonna get it rolling here. We got folks in the house. We got folks watching on YouTube Live. We got folks watching on Twitch. I won't tell you how to get there because you're already here, but we've got some great stuff coming in. So we already have questions about step functions. We got stuff coming in. Well, we got AWS SAM Party Don't Stop, but. So I want to welcome you to Sessions with Sam. This is a special edition. It's usually on Thursday. Today it's on Tuesday. And with me are a couple of SAM experts, right? So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Jeff, I'm gonna start with you. Tell us who you are, what you do, and your favorite pizza.
My name is Jeff Griffiths. I'm product manager. Recently joined AWS Serverless Group. So I'm new to Amazon, new to SAM, but picking up as I go along. I'm based in Vancouver, BC, and a lot of the SAM folks, especially the newer folks of the team, are going to be here in Vancouver, BC. And my favorite pizza, because I'm a diehard Canadian, is Hawaiian, of course.
All right, we're not going to spend time. We'll get caught on that. But yes, someone did point it out that Core Fury pointed out that it is Taco Tuesday, not pizza. But whatever, you can have pizza any day. Alex, Mr. Alex Wood, tell us who you are, what you do, and your favorite pizza.
Yes, sir. So I'm Alex Wood. I'm a senior software engineer with the AWS Serverless team. So I've been, I think, doing the serverless thing for about a year and a half now. And before that, worked on the AWS SDK for Ruby for quite a number of years. So my favorite pizza, it's got to be the Neapolitan margarita pizza, right? It's got to be.
There we go.
But my favorite taco is Tacos al Pastor.
Okay. All right. It is Taco Tuesday. I do like a taco. I'm a simple guy. I go to Taco Bell. Is that bad? I don't know. But there you go. All right. Well, we're gonna get started. Yes, Tacos El Pastor. We got some celebration. So what I want to do is, if you're, what's that?
Pineapples on tacos. You'll love it.
Oh my gosh. All right. So so we're getting some. Yeah. So we got look here. We have a good choice, Alex, from Jay Walsh to me. We've got some comments going on here. So yeah, we got some happy people. There's me commenting on the pizza, but. All right, so let's get down to business. So we're going to answer some questions. We're going to answer some SAM questions that we've had, and hopefully we've got some live questions come in. I had some actually sent to me beforehand, so we'll jump on those. But if you're not familiar with SAM, okay, SAM stands for Serverless Application Model. And it comes in two parts. You get the transform, which is our templating, which you can see some of that in the background on our screen here. And then you have the SAM CLI. And let me jump to you, Alex. What do you mainly work on?
So I work on both SAM and the SAM CLI. So the way that I look at my job is trying to make open source tools to make serverless development easier. So wherever that's going to lead me, that's what I'm going to be working on.
All right. Okay. So the SAM CLI. So tell me what the SAM CLI is. Let me ask you that. I kind of talked about the transform, but tell me what the CLI does.
Yeah, for sure. So the SAM CLI is a command line tool that integrates with the AWS Serverless Application Model, and it's designed to make it easier to build, deploy, test, and manage serverless applications.
All righty. Excellent. So in light of that, we had a question come in, and it was actually phrased in the form of a statement, but I'm going to post it to you in a question, all right? This is a technical question. We're going to throw this at Alex for a minute, or Jeff, you want to jump in, either way you want to go. But here's the question I got, and this was on it was on Stack Overflow. And it was, I can't test local Lambdas that reference a DynamoDB table when using AWS SAM. Okay, so the idea here is I'm running SAM local, and that's part of the SAM CLI. With the SAM CLI, you're able to say SAM local invoke, and you invoke a Lambda, or SAM local start API, and you run an API gateway in front of the Lambda that you can work against, or you can do SAM local start API or start Lambda, and you can use the CD or SDK for those. how do you test if I, and we get this question a lot, if I have a reference, if I have a DynamoDB table in the cloud and I'm testing a Lambda locally, how do I test against that DynamoDB table?
For sure. So there's a couple ways to look at this. So on the first hand, if you're going to be making calls against the DynamoDB table, it has to exist. So somehow, like sometimes that means you've done a deployment and you're referencing that table inside your code. And if you wanted to go, I'm inside SAM local and I'm calling out to a DynamoDB table that exists, that's an option. Another option is to set up DynamoDB local. And as so long as you've got your Docker networking set up so it can communicate with your DynamoDB local endpoint, and you have a way to tell your client that the endpoint I expect is DynamoDB local, then you can test locally that way as well. I will fully confess my favorite way of testing SAM applications is to create dev stacks.
Yes.
So my most common thing is, deploy your stack in dev, in test, and in production.
Right. So let me expand on that a little bit. Not expand, but yeah, I agree with you. I think the best practice that we often push, and Jeff, jump in here if you've got some on this as well, but the best practice that we push with SAM is as much as you can test in the cloud, test in the cloud, right? We obviously have DynamoDB local and you can run it, but how many of y'all, you can raise your hands, love to wrestle with Docker networking? I love Docker networking. I love figuring that out. Only thing I love more than Docker networking is cores, working with that. So this is obviously facetious. I don't love Docker networking. I'm not downing on Docker. I think it's a great product. They've done some great things, but it's tough to do. And yeah, I love this statement. Rob Sutter, one of our moderators on another DA says, bring the developer to the cloud, not the cloud to the developer's workstation. And that is a huge and great statement because we really want to push that, it's already running. When I run something in Docker network, then I spend 10 minutes wondering, and it doesn't work. I spend 10 minutes wondering, is it my code? Is it SAM? Is it Docker? Is it DynamoDB? It's like, so if I know it's up there. But Alex, so let me drill down on this a little bit. All right, so you said two ways. We've got Docker running in, or we've got DynamoDB running in Docker, or preferably up on the cloud. How do I tell the Lambda about that DynamoDB table?
Sure. So the most common pattern, and if we're going to like production deployments, is you can, for example, you can have your DynamoDB table, and often if you're creating it through CloudFormation, you can choose to hard code the table name, or you let CloudFormation generate the name for you, which is often a best practice that makes it easier to deploy multiple copies of a stack for various reasons. And you can actually pass into your Lambda function an environment variable that points it to your DynamoDB table name. So often there's going to be like a table name environment variable. Your code is going to reference that, and it's going to plumb that into any table name parameters that you need to set up your DynamoDB client. So that's a super useful pattern. And then when it comes to local testing, you just have to make sure that environment variable is populated, because if you're not on a deployed CloudFormation stack, that environment variable is not necessarily going to be there.
Right.
It's a common pattern for why something might work remotely, and then on local, you're going to get that slight behavior divergence. One thing too, just to add on the testing through CloudFormation, and what I actually really enjoy about it is it's a very unique and powerful thing about CloudFormation as well as serverless offerings in general, where it's both very easy and cost effective to literally just deploy the same stack you're going to deploy to production onto your own developer account. And, it's essentially like you're running on the real thing. And because of the fact that everything's pay for usage, you're not having to necessarily stand up a large amount of infrastructure that you're then having to keep track of. In many cases, if it's not getting used, it's not a factor.
That's right. Yeah, most companies are able to test for almost nothing. when you're running your small, and I didn't say nothing. I don't want to be, hey, Eric said it's free. That's not what I'm saying. But what we find out is people are able to, they build their stacks and they build them entirely serverless, DynamoDB, Lambda, SQS, EventBridge, and I can go on. And these only charge for when they're being used. So they sit out there, they're not used, that's okay. And then the free tier system, so even when they are being used, most of that testing can come under the free tier. So it's a great way to get some very inexpensive testing. So the one other thing I would point out, Alex, and I think you alluded to this earlier, is the environments file. You can create a locals file, or I call it locals, but you can create a local file that has those environments in that as well, and pass it as a environment file, right?
Yeah, and you have to do a little bit more wrestling with it if you want to do DynamoDB local, because then you're also having a non-default endpoint.
Right.
Often you're saying like the endpoint is, how I've set up the networking between DynamoDB local and Docker.
Yeah.
And so that's another, but you can write your code such as to say like, well, if there's this environment variable present that I only do for testing, then I should also specify an endpoint when I'm creating my SDK clients. And otherwise you just leave that as just an artifact of test code.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that. And so, again, that's another argument for testing on this. And I love you said this earlier. Best practice: let Sam name the resources, and that way. So if I'm going to test, Sam's name my resources. I create it, and always push once, so it's all out there on the cloud, and then I can create my environment variables file, and then pass that in when I'm doing Sam local invoke or something like that. So. Great. Yeah, that's a great way to approach that, best practices. Jeff, you're not going to escape talking here. I have a question for you. We're not going to talk tech for a minute. I want to get into as much as you can. A lot of times we don't talk about roadmap, but as much as you can, we've got some things coming up, and I want to know, maybe see what you can expand on. And but we have some new versions of the SAM CLI out there. 1.0.0 release code. What does this mean?
So we're taking SAM through a process that at Amazon we call GA, or generally available. So the SAM CLI is going to become generally available shortly. We've had a couple of RC or release candidate releases over the last couple of weeks. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be testing those more, addressing any bugs that we find. And then finally, we'll get to a release. And the timing of that release depends on the success of that testing, essentially. The SAM Transform, the other part of the product, has been generally available for a few months. That's right, Alex?
Yep.
I think longer than that, yeah.
It's been a year or more, yeah. Yep.
So we did that for the SAM Transform, and now we're doing it for the SAM CLI. What that means, generally available, is that we're cutting 1.0.0, and we've got a deep promise to customers that we're not going to break any of the behaviors in how the CLI currently works. So don't worry, we're going to add features as we go along, but we're going to keep the same behaviors that you can rely on. And then if in the future we make some breaking change fundamentally that customers want, for SAM CLI, we will cut a new major version. We'll have a transition plan for that. That's sort of the promise of it being a 1.0.0. Coming up after GA, we've got a bunch of interesting stuff that we're looking at, and just looking at like the customer feedback, like especially through GitHub, what people seem to want in the issues. And one of the big themes for us is just improving performance. We know that customers don't want to wait for anything. They want to see when you're doing a build test cycle, you want to see what that next error is or what the output is, and make sure that your code is working as you expected, or working on a bug, or running a test. So performance is really key for us. There's a bunch of different ways that we're looking at to improve that performance. We've had great feedback in GitHub that we need to work through as a team. And I'm really looking forward to making those improvements in the next few months.
Awesome. All right. So we've got improvements coming up. Can you allude to any features, or are you mum's the word?
Well, I think that the one thing that Alex and I were talking about just the other day is if you've used SAM, and especially if you've used SAM to build layers or to build compiled code, or even with the node runtime, if you notice that it kind of runs npm installer every time you run it. There's a bunch of things in how SAM builds things that can be more efficient and sort of represent more what the customer wants from SAM there. incremental building, that sort of thing.
Excellent. Okay. All right. I spend a lot of time. Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say, so an interesting thing about GA, and I think the importance of it that some of this highlights is that I've definitely seen a few questions of like why now in particular for GA. And I think a big thing is we've really wanted to get the feature out to customers of a strong promise of stability. Because if you think about like, I personally don't build anything that I'm going to maintain in production that's not built on top of dependencies that are stable and have backwards compatibility guarantees, because I don't want to wake up at 2 a.m. because somebody made a breaking change and broke me and broke all my customers behind the scenes. So what we wanted to do was figure out, okay, so what is between us and making that strong backwards compatibility promise? Because SAM does not make breaking, like SAM CLI has not made breaking changes often, even in a pre-GA state. So there's really a lot of like trying to look at our future roadmap and go like, what features might be a small breaking change? And let's get those done first and then mint GA so that we can continue to work on features that are on our roadmap, but be able to start making that strong compatibility promise so that, you know, if I have a script, it's going to work the same way now and into the future. So things like interactive SAM init that we launched last year, it's like technically a breaking change. SAM init with no parameters would go from an error to a prompt, which could be problematic if you were relying on the fact that it's always going to return or error right away. And so we wanted to make sure that we could give notice and let people adjust to using it that way. And, you know, we made changes like SAM deploy guided. So we really tried to look at like what changes that we want to make could involve breaking changes that we know about. We've gotten those done. And so now we just want to get that promise of stability out there as we continue to ship more features.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love this approach. So we had a question come in, and Rob already answered it, but I want to bring it to light so everybody sees it here, because we have several channels here. So we had a question: plans on step function YAML definitions that can be rendered in GraphQL or GraphASL. So and I know Rob, and if you want to expand on this at all, Rob answered that this is a popular request, and we're going to pass that along to the product team. Is this something that you've thought about or looked at on the team?
I will fully admit that the GraphASL question on step functions YAML is new to me. So for those who haven't been following our most recent releases, we do have step function support in SAM now that you can define in YAML. So that's been something that's been asked for a long time, and I've certainly enjoyed it quite a bit. Fun thing, if you have the SAM CLI for most of our latest runtimes, I believe all of our latest ones, you can run SAM init. And for all of the newest languages, there's a step functions example that you can deploy and run that uses the step functions YAML.
Yep, we've got some examples out there. So yeah, a lot of great things that are put out. And I would follow that up. What Alex is saying is if you're looking to build something, a common question I think is, how do I do testing in Lambda? And a lot of our templates in Node and some of the other ones show how to do some simple testing with some of the common libraries, things like that. So look at the templates. SAM init, choose a runtime. Choose a template, one of the AWS managed template, and you get some great ideas on how those work. So, all righty. So here's another question that I had, and one of y'all want to jump on this. And this came from a different pipe. It says, why is there a size difference? So we might need to do some clarification. It's probably more of a Lambda question, but we'll throw it out here anyway. Why is there a size difference when using the AWS Lambda layers versus an AWS SAM deployment package? Either I can jump on that, or one of you guys want to jump on that.
I don't know.
I will fully admit I have not observed this, so I'd be curious about
So why is there a size difference when using the AWS Lambda layers versus AWS SAM deployment package? Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of it either, and I want to clarify, make sure we're understanding the question. Are you talking in the upload? Because in the upload, obviously the layer won't be involved there, so your package is going to be small. That's one of the advantages of a layer. If I include a layer, then that layer is going to get added after my code is uploaded, and it's all brought in on the same thing. Now, your layer may have some dependencies that you weren't aware of, but after that, regardless of if you upload it from as all the same dependencies from in a package, or if you're bringing it in from a layer, at that point they should be the same size. So and so if that doesn't clarify, please hit me and maybe give your working example that I can put that elsewhere. So all right, we have a question coming in. Hey, EJ, in the GA, do you know if the stage is fixed? Oh, Alex, do you know what he's talking about? I do.
Tell me about it.
So when you create something, and Darren Wiener, when you may have to throw in some of this as well, but when you create a stage, there's an automatic. So when I do a REST API, there's an automatic prod and stage created, whether I want it or not. There's 2 stages for REST API created. That's more of an API. I'm not sure if that's a SAM or an API.
It wouldn't be a SAM CLI thing, because SAM CLI is like that. That's a part of SAM templates. One thing I do know is that in HTTP APIs, we don't have this. For HTTP APIs, yes, you get the direct endpoint. But we haven't made any changes in that way to SAM. I mean, potentially changing the SAM default API design at this point would be a breaking change, because there may be people now relying on the prod stage. So there are ways in the future we may try to look to smooth that out if possible, but that is not changing as part of a SAM CLI GA.
All righty. Excellent question. I hope that helps. I know I probably didn't give you the answer that you wanted, but yeah. Yes, question sent by Twitter. So I've tried to grab some of them, but if you can plan them, put them here, that'd be great. Yes, Gustavo, I had your question, and I'm going to pull it up right now, actually. Is it, and this is actually, okay, so the question is it possible, and I'll probably run with this unless one of you guys want to, is it possible to set a specific Cloudfront distro via an ARN, Amazon resource, to my API gateway resource policies condition in a way that my gateway only accepts requests from that Cloudfront? So what he's asking here is, if I've got a Cloudfront distribution in front of an API gateway, can I limit it so that only traffic from the Cloudfront can come here? And that's not going to be a SAM thing, because there's not about the only way you can do that right now. It can't be done in a resource policy, but the only way you can do that is you can add an API key. You can use Lambda Edge to add an API key to the request. Then your API will require that key be part of that. That's about, and I actually pinged my API gateway experts this morning to make sure on that answer. And that is the best way at the moment. A resource policy will not limit it to a specific Cloudfront distro. If it did, then yes, right in SAM, you could add that ARN and everything would be hunky-dory. But that's where we're at on that. So hopefully that helps you out, Gustavo. I appreciate you sending that question. That was very cool. A great question. All right. So any plans for CDK support integration?
So one thing I can say is we do have some, in the sense that if you synthesize a CDK template with, say, Lambda resources, there is some ability to do local testing, so long as things are configured with, say, like a code URI that we can reference. I think the question I'd even want to throw back is, what types of CDK integration are you looking for? Like, how do you want these two tools to work together? Like, what CDK gaps are you looking to fill, or is the idea that you want to be able to do a SAM deployment of CDK templates? Like, what type of integration are you looking for? Because I think we're now starting to hear a little bit about some people wanting CDK integration, so it would be useful to know more about that. CDK can't deploy Lambdas with dependencies.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You can see that.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for being more specific about that, because that question, the initial question, was very, in my mind, it's quite broad, and we hear a lot about these kinds of things, and especially with customers that have more complex needs that are really working on CloudFormation and use things like SAM and the CDK to produce CloudFormation and do deployments in various ways. So it's that specific issue is much more interesting, like actionable.
Okay. Is this something that we can maybe, and obviously we won't be able to tell you exactly, hey, we're going to be adding this or that, but Warbrains, if you'll reach out to me, it's Warbrains, Warbrain. If you'll reach out to me via Twitter on EDJ Geek, I'm going to put that in the chat here, EDJ Geek. I will see what kind of, again, I'm not going to be able to give you a roadmap answer, but maybe we can clarify exactly how this will help and work with the CDK team and as well. So there we go. All right. So another question we had is and again, this is a roadmap, but so while we may not be able to answer all these are hugely helpful to us on what you want. And I agree with this one. When are we getting SAM delete remove? Meaning, can I just delete my stack from SAM? Alex, can you do that today?
The command does not exist today, so.
But I meant, can you code it and push that
you can
today?
Do like with an AWS CLI and AWS CloudFormation delete stack, that will work. But so the idea of tying that into SAM CLI is just definitely something we're aware of. I believe there is a partial PR out for this now, and I think that we want to look more into getting that into a state that we can maintain. 'Cause it is a useful thing to have, like. Having to jump to another tool to delete, say, a dev stack it's not ideal.
Yeah. So generally, I'm 100% behind this one. I generally keep my console open and delete stacks as I need. So the ability to say SAM delete will be fantastic. Another one that I would throw in there, I haven't seen it asked yet. Is the ability to generate that locals file. Remember, we were talking earlier about that locals environment file?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I would love to be able to say SAM local environment, or anytime I deploy, much like AWS Amplified does, anytime I deploy, a local file is created with my environment factors so that I could pass that in on SAM deploy, or I'm sorry, SAM locals. So. All right, so we have a question here. It looks like Rob said until the end that this isn't going to help anybody. I'm showing that, but all right, we have another question here. It says, is it true that there's a plan to replace YAML because of its limitations? Don't be replacing YAML on me. I haven't heard this, but do you guys have any light on this?
I haven't heard that.
I can say, so I don't know about this question, but we do also support using JSON. So
Well,
a JSON template will work.
Yeah, but, why? No, I'm just kidding. I'm a YAML fan. I openly admit. I'm going to throw this up there. It's one of my favorite jokes. All right. So, all righty. Let's see. We got some other stuff coming in here real quick. Let me jump over. All righty. Okay, so we have so Warbrains is elaborating on that. WGG and Warbrains are talking about that. So I'm going to let them run with that because I don't know if we're going to be able to answer a CDK question on that. But all right, so we're almost out of time. But I'm watching. We have any other questions coming in that we can answer? If not, then we did have a question from Twitter that says, I wonder if there are any plans to add a plugin system like Serverless does in the future. This was from Driss Omri. Now, again, I know we're not talking roadmap, but what an interesting idea. What do you think?
So plugin systems are, quite common in tooling. It just allows the customer, someone to paper in function that isn't existing in the particular thing. And it's greatest in particular for integrations with other things. And with serverless framework, SLS, that really makes sense because they're cross-cloud and they're kind of an independent entity. I would be interested to know from developers what they think that would look like in SAM. It's something that it's an obvious question to ask about any system. Can we plug into it? But I'm not sure exactly how that would work for SAM in particular. And so and from what I've seen so far, and I just have to profess my newness to the team here. This is like my little hedge. I'm just learning about this stuff along with you. I'm a couple of months in. I've learned a lot over the last couple of months, especially working with Alex and Eric. They know so much about this stuff. And my sense, having looked at a lot of other systems like this, especially at older jobs that I had, was that it really, it's got to be driven by developer need. What do they need to plug into? How do they think that that's going to work? And so the best suggestion is, if you've got a great idea for how plugins could work for you, GitHub issue, and we'll take a look at it. We review GitHub issues all the time, and it's definitely on my top list to really dig into GitHub issues. It's the sort of the front line, the open discussion for suggestions about how to improve things in SAM. So
yeah, the biggest thing that can help us with plugins is let us know the plugins that you'd like to see or the plugins that you'd like to build, because knowing more about the plugins that you want is going to would help us to design the right way to provide that.
Yeah,
like we don't want to do too much guesswork on this and then support the wrong plugin approach. So we're definitely super interested to hear about the types of plugins that you want to see.
And in light of that, or in response to that, you may be asking yourself, okay, well, how do I get a hold of you? Well, here it is. Reach out to me at EDJ Geek on Twitter. Unfortunately for these gentlemen, I bug them every day, and we meet every week for them to get feedback from what I'm hearing in the field. And believe me, if you tell me, I tell them, and they listen. So the whole idea about this, and something if you learn about Amazon or at all, is what we build is customer driven. We work very hard to build what customers need. So when you tell us we really need something, we're listening very, very close. We had another question here that said, I got to get my banners to go away here. Here we go. Is it possible for, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm using a new streaming, and so yeah, I'm still working on this. Is it possible that SAM can help with direct integration between API Gateway and DynamoDB and the CloudFormation resource for this job? If you don't mind, I'm going to jump on this. This is something I work with quite a bit. I did post a link here, slip that link /shorty. And the fun thing about that is this link is not only, this is a URL shortener to a GitHub repo on how to build this URL shortener. This entire URL shortener was built using just API Gateway and DynamoDB in the backend. It uses OpenAPI to describe the API Gateway, and it uses SAM to put it all together. So while SAM isn't going to do some of the direct integrations directly, and most of that direct integration is really an API Gateway thing. But we are working hard in if you've been following me on the API Gateway stories, one of the things we're working on is HTTP API will soon have all the same functionality of API of REST API. However, we're looking at how to make it easier and better. And so as we do that, then a lot of that should come into SAM, and the tooling teams work very close. So hopefully that helps answer that. We have an ongoing discussion about dependencies and CDK, so some great stuff going on there. Okay, Sam. So Jay Walsh, you said introduce to Sam. Sam. Oh, introduce you to Sam. Eric Johnson cannot read. Yes, I introduced him to Sam last fall. I thought that was a question. All righty. Okay. All right. Any other questions specifically for Sam? And I would, again, we have, I see another one of our SAM folks in the moderating, Jay Fuss. He's an awesome SAM supporter. He works with AWS. He's looking to see what kind of integrations you're asking for as well. With that, I'm going to give Jeff and Alex, you guys have anything else you want to throw out before we wrap up?
Just to point out again, with that API Gateway URL shortener, the developer engagement team working with us on AWS produces all these great examples to just dig into how you can sort of, piece all these things together. I know that AWS has a fairly large list of services, but it's really, the point of people like Eric to really sort of bring practical examples like this to the fore to really show you how you can leverage this stuff, and it's not all witchcraft. It's pretty cool. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, you bet. That's a great word. So Sessions with Sam, like I said, is usually on Thursdays. Just so you know, this is what's coming up this week. Sessions with Sam, Mr. Chase Douglas from Stackery, who is smarter than I will ever be if I were 10, 20 times smarter than I am now. But that's not saying a lot. He is going to be talking about using .NET with Sam and how to kind of some of the best practices on working with that, and how to kind of we're going to be talking about how do I move from, hey, I have this .NET application, but I want to use it on serverless. How do I bring that over, and how does Sam get involved, and how does Stackery get involved? What's really cool is Stackery has this amazing layout where you can kind of design your architecture, and it's all built on top of Sam. So encourage you to join us. That's this Thursday coming up. Same time, 10 a.m. PST, 11 o'clock MST, and then all the other conversions I can't do. Jeff, Alex, I really appreciate your time. I hope this has been helpful for all of us. Oh, we have one other question here coming in. Sorry, I'm going to actually pause this. We have one other question. Will Sam allow us to avoid cores? No. Cores is going to be a thing, but Sam and actually API Gateway makes that easier. Alex, were you going to say something, or were you just laughing?
Oh, no. It's really great having all the questions from everyone. And I'm really excited to see where things are going with GA coming up soon and with what we've got coming down the pipe. So definitely biggest thing is don't want to end it here. I love hearing all of your feature requests. So, reach out, because we're always iterating on the roadmap, and believe me, there's a lot of room to help to set the direction that we're going to be going. So, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us on Twitter, reach out through Eric. We always love to hear about what you're building and how you can build it easier.
Absolutely. All right. And I kind of did it real short, but why Hernandez? Look at HTTP API and how cores in SAM is done on HTTP API. It is easier. And in fact, I've got some. If you look at other Sessions with Sam episodes, I believe we touch on some of it. If not, I'm thinking I need to do one, or a blog post. So yeah, it is easier, and Sam does help out there. But unfortunately, Sam can't entirely get rid of cores as much as we'd love it to. So, all right, with that, I'm saying goodbye. Again, thank you to my guests. I hope you all have a great day. Stay happy, and hopefully we'll see you on Thursday. We'll see you later.